For today's meditation, we are reading from 1 Kings chapter 10, verses 1 to 13. Now when the queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord, she came to test him and with hard questions. She came to Jerusalem with a very great retinue, with camels bearing spices and very much gold and precious stones. And when she came to Solomon, she told him all that was on her mind. And Solomon answered all her questions. There was nothing hidden from the king that he could not explain to her. And when the queen of Sheba had seen all the wisdom of Solomon, the house that he had built, the food of his table, the seating of his officials, and the attendance of his servants, their clothing, their cupbearers, and his burnt offerings that he offered at the house of the Lord, there was no more breath in her. And she said to the king, the report was true that I heard in my own land of your words and of your wisdom. But I did not believe the reports until I came and my own eyes had seen it. And behold, the half was not told me. Your wisdom and prosperity surpass the report that I heard. Happy are your men, happy are your servants who continually stand before you and hear your wisdom. Blessed be the Lord your God who has delighted in you and set you on the throne of Israel. Because the Lord loved Israel forever, he has made you king, that you may execute justice and righteousness. Then she gave the king 120 talents of gold and a very great quantity of spices and precious stones. Never again came such an abundance of spices as these that the queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. Moreover, the fleet of Hiram, which brought gold from Ophir, brought from Ophir a very great amount of almug wood and precious stones. And the king made of the almug wood supports for the house of the Lord and for the king's house, also lyres and harps for the singers. No such almug wood has come or been seen to this day. And King Solomon gave to the queen of Sheba all that she desired, whatever she asked besides what was given her by the bounty of King Solomon. So she turned and went back to her own land with her servants. The visit of the queen of Sheba to Solomon stands as a testament to the far-reaching fame and unparalleled wisdom that characterized his reign. At the height of his power, Solomon surpassed all other kings and queens in both wealth and knowledge. The queen of Sheba, hearing of his greatness, embarked on a long and arduous journey of over 1,100 miles from the region of Sheba, believed to be in southwestern Arabia, near modern-day Yemen or Ethiopia, just to witness Solomon's wisdom firsthand. Jesus himself referred to this event, noting that she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, underscoring the depth of her admiration and respect for his insight. When she arrived in Jerusalem, the queen tested Solomon with difficult questions, probing the limits of his knowledge on subjects ranging from science and geography to ethics and diplomacy. Solomon answered her every inquiry, leaving her more than satisfied. She was overwhelmed not only by his wisdom, but also by the splendor and majesty of his court. In awe, she confessed, the report was true that I heard in my own land of your words and of your wisdom. But I did not believe the reports until I came and my own eyes had seen it. And behold, the half was not told me. Your wisdom and prosperity surpassed the report that I heard. But it was God who had given Solomon his wisdom, a gift meant to be used in service and obedience to God. As we saw in the previous chapter, Solomon's blessings were tied to his faithfulness to God, with a clear warning of what would happen if he strayed. God's gifts are always given with purpose. They are to bring him glory, not to serve our selfish desires. James chapter 3 verse 13 to 18 speaks to the nature of true wisdom, contrasting it with worldly ambition. James says, Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct, let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom. God's wisdom produces humility, gentleness, and a willingness to be guided by the Spirit. It stands in stark contrast to the wisdom of the world, which is characterized by selfish ambition and bitter jealousy. James warns, but if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder and every vile practice. The pursuit of worldly success can easily lead to selfish ambition, where we seek to elevate our own name rather than God's. Solomon, despite his immense wisdom, fell into this trap. Instead of trusting in God for his security, he amassed great wealth and sought to fortify his kingdom by acquiring horses and chariots from Egypt. This was in direct disobedience to God's command in Deuteronomy chapter 17 verse 16, which prohibited Israel's king from multiplying horses and returning to Egypt for them. David, Solomon's father, had already secured peace for Israel through God's strength. Yet Solomon sought additional security through worldly means. This marked the beginning of a downward spiral in his reign as his heart turned away from God. Though Solomon had wisdom and riches beyond measure, his failure to fully submit his will to God led him astray. This serves as a warning for us today. No matter how gifted or successful we may become, we must continually surrender our hearts and wills to God. Our gifts are given by God, not for self-glorification, but for the advancement of His kingdom. When we fail to align our will with God's, even the greatest gifts can lead us away from Him. In contrast to Solomon, Jesus demonstrated perfect wisdom and obedience. Though he was greater than Solomon in every way, he lived in complete submission to his Father's will. While the people marveled at his teaching, saying, "No one ever spoke like this man," Jesus remained humble and obedient, even to the point of death on a cross. As is said in Hebrews chapter 10 verse 9, "Behold, I have come to do your will, O God." His life was not only marked by wisdom, but by a deep commitment to fulfilling his Father's purposes. Jesus rebuked the Pharisees for their blindness and hard-heartedness toward him, warning them, "The queen of the south will rise up at the judgment with this generation and condemn it. For she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and behold, something greater than Solomon is here." Matthew 12:42. The Pharisees were confronted with wisdom far surpassing that of Solomon, yet they rejected it. This serves as a sobering reminder that we can have access to great spiritual truths, but still miss the heart of God if we refuse to submit to His will. Jesus is the one greater than Solomon. In Him, we find not only wisdom, but also perfect love, obedience, and humility. His life was a perfect demonstration of what it means to live in alignment with God's will. As we reflect on Solomon's greatness and the Queen of Sheba's awe, we are reminded that even the most impressive human achievements pale in comparison to the greatness of Christ. Jesus calls us not just to admire His wisdom, but to follow Him in obedience. Let us learn from Solomon's example and from Christ's perfect obedience. Whatever gifts, talents, or wisdom God has entrusted to us, we are called to use them for His glory. True wisdom comes not from accumulating knowledge or wealth, but from surrendering our will to God and living in alignment with His purposes. As Jesus said in Matthew 23 verse 12, "Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted." Let us follow the one greater than Solomon, submitting ourselves fully to the will of God and using the gifts He has given us to glorify Him. God bless.